do it on a regular. Okay, thank you. So I want to welcome everybody. This coordinated community response. And just to let you know, we started this during COVID in March of 2020. And at that point, we met weekly because things changed. We weren't sure what was going to be happening. It's mostly human services. A lot of it is housing and interest in those who are unhoused. So most of y'all here work somehow with people who are experiencing homelessness, at risk of homelessness, providing human services and trying to build resilience with everybody. I'm Margaret Firerobin, and I'm with Family Promise of Bristol, as well as Appalachian Promise Alliance, which was Bristol's promise. And so we want to welcome everybody for being here today. And what we've been doing most of the time recently, we've been doing a little bit of a program and then having an opportunity to network. I've asked everybody to go ahead and put your contact information in the chat. I'm not always good at getting that out. I'll try to be better with it today with getting that out. Also, I keep forgetting, and I will send a separate email. We now have a YouTube channel, so our recorded videos are on that YouTube channel. And one that might particularly be helpful was one we had in December with Eric Fields that talks about heretohelp.org, which also you can reach by servingtricities.org with resources that we need to be sure that all of us are on, plus you can find things as well. So with that, and I'll also just say at the beginning that and Lynn can make a pitch for it too, but the Bristol Coalition that's been meeting for many, should I say, decades?
Yeah.
For several decades. They meet on the second Tuesday, so that's May 14th. They meet at 12 to 1:30 at the Envision Center or the Bristol Housing Office, and they feed you as well as offer online version as well. Their attendance has been fabulous for that meeting. We have never met in person, and unless we get huge response requests to meet in person, we'll continue doing our online. Perhaps we should have one meeting sometime, or Lynn coordinate and we all meet in person sometime would be a great thing to be able to do, because we know that makes a huge difference in those parking lot conversations or after conversations. We know how valuable those are in that networking. So with that, again, want to welcome everybody and appreciate your being here. So this time we thought we would ask for Lynn Pannell, who's with Bristol, Virginia Housing, and it's Regina Edwards, who's with Bristol, Tennessee Housing. Both of those to give a little bit of update of kind of where things are, where they see things heading. We know, I would think everybody here, that we are very short of housing, not just in our community, but across our country. Also and I just was telling somebody this morning and told people, I believe in Bristol Merchants meeting last week, on everything I've seen, the number one cause of homelessness is lack of affordable housing. Lots of other reasons and lots of things.
I'm a head case.
Just get that golf club fixed.
I'm a head case. This is where my students are gonna.
But we lack the stock of affordable housing. So we can get people ready. They can be all in good shape to go into housing. And if we don't have it, we can't provide it. We can't help them. And we've seen a lot of that here in our community as well. So we wanted to give an opportunity to our two housing authorities to talk about what's going on with them, what their challenges are. Some of those challenges I'm sure we're already aware of. We may not be aware of others. And if y'all have questions and want to put them in the chat, that's great. Also, hopefully at the end, we'll have a chance for questions. Also, comments, don't hesitate. It doesn't have to be a question. It can be a comment as well. We did not ask ahead of time for who should go first. Do y'all want to duke it out, or do you want
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me.
Regina has been practicing sharing her screen. She might be nervous, so she could go ahead and do hers so that she can be done with it. So maybe Regina goes first from Bristol, Tennessee Housing. Also, if you want to give what your title is, Regina and Lynn, when that comes, so that we understand which depending on, we have several people here from Family Promise. I know sometimes their titles don't really match what they do. So, or we have to change it every year because of a grant or whatever that it has to more appropriately reflect. So anyway, so Regina, with that, if you want to see if you can introduce yourself and then share your screen, that would be fabulous.
Okay, well, I'm Regina Edwards and I am the CFO at Bristol Housing, and I also manage our Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program. I've been here almost 21 years, so we've learned a lot during that period of time and improved a lot as a housing authority since the time I got here. Our director asked me to do this. He was going to be unavailable, so I've put together a PowerPoint, and he wanted me to share a little bit of the history and structure about the housing authority, and so that's what I've done. So here, let's see if we can get this to work. Margaret had to walk me through it on how to make it work. Can you see my slide?
Perfect.
Okay, great. All right. Well, this is our logo, of course, very simple, serving the elderly, handicapped, and disabled citizens of Bristol and parts of Sullivan County. We share Sullivan County with Kingsport. They come up to about the airport. We go down to about the airport with our voucher program. Get these slides to advance. Not working. Okay, there we go. Here's our administrative offices. We moved here about 10 or 11 years ago. So staff, administrative staff is here on Bluff City Highway at 204, right in front of Haynesfield School. Here at the Housing Authority, we're pretty simple. We have two basic programs. We have our public housing program, which is 354 apartments that we own and operate in the city of Bristol, Tennessee. And HUD holds a deed of trust on those properties and gives us operating and capital funds for that program. And then we also have the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program, where we issue vouchers to eligible families and individuals, and that gives them 4 months to search for housing with a private landlord. And then we subsidize those payments to those landlords. They're going to pay anywhere from 30 to 40% of their annual income less deductions for rent in that program. So just a little history of the Housing Authority. We were chartered in '64 by the city of Bristol, Tennessee, and that's when we first began our public housing program. And we started building, taking dilapidated properties and empty lots across the city and started building scattered site units. And so we ended up with 144 of those. You'll see those all around the city. I've got a couple pictures here in a minute of those. And then we've got our Edgemont Towers property that we built in '71, and that has 118 apartments. That building is on the corner of Ash and Martin Luther King, and it's designated for elderly, handicapped, and disabled individuals there. Then in '81, we built another 10-story high-rise, Fort Shelby Tower, and that started with 110 apartments. It's right behind the post office and in front of Salvation Army. And in 2004, we did some reconfiguration there and took 36 apartments and converted them into 18 larger apartments because at that time we were having a little bit of problem leasing some of those smaller units. So that cut those numbers down to 92. We still have those 18 units in our Faircloth limit. So if we were to acquire or build 18 more units, we could still get HUD subsidy for those properties. But that puts our total at 354 that we lease, manage, take care of. This is one of the family unit properties. So you'll see these all over town, like I said. Martin Luther King, Ash, East State, Carolina, Kentucky. 421 is Virginia Avenue going out toward the lake. So they're all out through there. People love these little units, but they're getting some age on them. This is Edgemont Towers. You can see we started this big project a few years ago to repair those balconies and to replace the doors and windows in it. And that's starting to put that scaffolding up there. That's Fort Shelby, right in front of Salvation Army behind the post office. This is just some statistics on our program. Our average income for the family units is about $22,000 a year. These are your restaurant workers, your single mothers getting child support, some people with no income, people receiving TANF, your minimum wage workers out there, people in the restaurants. There's a lot of those families. Edgemont Towers and Fort Shelby Towers, most of those families there are getting SSI, Social Security. They're the disabled, elderly, handicapped. So that's 16,000 is their average income. Section 8, a mixture of all of the above, about 15,000 a year is their annual income. You can see down there the length of residency. We have some people who have been with us for 30 or more years, and then some come and stay a couple of months. So that's your average length of residency, 7.5 years, family units, the lower 6 years in ET and Fort Shelby, and then 5.5 years in Section 8. I was looking yesterday, and we've got some families who began in the program in the mid-90s that we still have on that program. On the side over there on the right, you can see the total number of individuals that we assist in all of our properties is about 920 people, children, adults. So getting close to 1,000 people there. So our funding comes primarily from HUD. So it's a mixture of what we take in as rents from the tenants. And you'll see there in fiscal year 23, we brought in 1.38 million rents charged to our tenants. And then HUD only gave us 1.07 million for operating. So the families are putting in a good chunk of that. We have anywhere from $50 rents all the way up to $700, $800, $900 rents, depending on the family's incomes. And then HUD gives us a capital grant each year. And currently that is $777,000 is what we got last year. And so that's what we'll project on for the next few years, but it will increase every year. And that's what we use, of course, to do those big projects, those balcony repairs, the roof repairs, flooring, things like that. So it's got to go a long ways. And then the Section 8 voucher program, that's where we have those 200 vouchers that we issue to families, and the landlords, the HAP is what it's called. It's housing assistance payments. And we paid out almost 1.04 million last year in payments to landlords all through Bristol and Sullivan County. And then we got 171,000 in administrative fees for running the program, for salaries, benefits, office supplies, all those kind of things. And then we recaptured $7,100 in fraud. So when you recapture the fraud, HUD lets you split that between your HAP and your admin fees. So we're always looking for that. HUD requires it, and then requiring those families pay that money back if we find some. So this is just a list of some of the recent and upcoming capital improvements that we have done and plan to do. That big balcony project at Edgemont Towers, that was 2.1 million. So we completed that in 23, and that one was so large we had to spread it over 3 or 4 capital grants to be able to complete that. Took some time, a lot of planning to get that done. We put new roofs on many of the family unit apartments this last year. We had a hailstorm that damaged a lot of them. So the insurance paid a large portion, and then we had to cover, I think, about $75,000 out of our operating funds. We just put new laminate flooring in Edgemont Tower and Fort Shelby in the common areas and hallways. And this is real exciting. Last month, we put in a new state-of-the-art surveillance system at Edgemont Tower. So makes it a lot easier to monitor safety and find individuals in the buildings that are coming in and shouldn't be there. We just installed a new emergency generator at Fort Shelby. We did a fire system upgrades at Edgemont Tower and Fort Shelby. And then we've got elevator upgrades planned at Fort Shelby this year. Those two elevators there alone will cost us almost $500,000. So that'll take up the biggest part of that capital grant. So there's not a whole lot left to go anywhere else, but we will have ADA modifications, roof replacements, sewer lines ongoing constantly. There's a picture of that big balcony renovation. That scaffolding is pretty impressive, isn't it? But we put in 108 balconies were repaired, 118 new patio doors, 150 windows replaced. And of course, all that helps in energy efficiency, just the quality of the building and what it looks like is improved. So as far as the Section 8 program, that program, Bristol Housing started with it in the 90s, and they had a small allocation of vouchers from HUD. And then over the years, that has increased to the point to where we have 200 vouchers now. And about half of those are in the city of Bristol, and then the other half are spread out between Blountville, Bluff City, Piney Flats, outside in the county. And we added a program in about 2006 called the Home Ownership Program. Housing authorities have the option to apply to HUD and put in their administrative plans that they will operate this program. And that's been successful for us. We've only had about 9 families to close on properties in that period of time. But the reason why is because the families still end up having to get approval of a loan, whether it's through USDA or conventional financing. And a lot of our families with the low incomes that they are not going to have good credit scores. So sometimes we have to work with them for a few years to get them to the point to where they would be able to purchase a home, getting those collections, judgments, those kind of things cleaned up. So, but everyone that we've had on that program is successful. Nobody has defaulted or has lost their homes through that program. So we're pretty proud of that one. We also work with the VASH vouchers, which are for homeless veterans. We had an allocation of 10 that came directly from HUD that we had for probably 10 or 12 years. But the VA asked us recently to let HUD recapture those and reallocate them to other localities that needed them more, because we couldn't keep our 10 leased up. We only had to, I think the most we've ever had of those is 5. So what we're doing now is we're partnering with Johnson City Housing, and they also gave up some of theirs because they had too many. But the VA will determine if the family is eligible, send them to Johnson City Housing to issue the voucher, and then Johnson City will port them to us to administer them. So we've currently got 2 VASH homeless veterans that are being helped here, and then a 3rd one is in process. One thing that we did last year to combat this problem in the real estate market, where we couldn't pay the rents that these astronomical rents that the landlords were asking for, was to change from the funds that we could pay for those rents to increase those. Well, first of all, HUD issues a fair market rent for counties or localities every year, and we always fell under the one fair market rent that was for Bristol, Blountville, Abingdon, Bristol, Virginia, Washington County. But this year we changed that to where we could do what they call small area fair market rents. And those we were able to get a fair market rent by zip code. So this will show you that the maximum numbers for those subsidies by bedroom size for Bristol, Blountville, and Kingsport, they're a little bit higher for Bluff City and then considerably higher for Piney Flats. So the hope is to be able to attract more landlords out in those areas and then subsidize the families more. These are the highest numbers that we've ever had. Plus, HUD is, I'm sorry. Did you have a question? Okay, all right. These are at 120% of what those small area FMRs were issued at. HUD is allowed a waiver for us to go from 110 to 120 because of this real estate market. And those are set to expire in December. Now, if a family is under lease with these numbers, when they expire in December, we won't have to drop that rent down to the lower fair market, because we're going to adopt, put before our board a new admin plan, and it will have in that a safe harbor clause that as long as the family is still in that property, they won't have to move, and their numbers won't, their rent subsidy won't change until they move to a new location. And by the time that would happen, the fair markets would probably raise anyway. But anyway, this has helped in attracting landlords, so we're happy about that. But this is the maximum number allotted to that family, and it includes the utility estimate. So say, for example, this 0-bedroom in Piney Flats for $1,056, a utility estimate is deducted from that. The only way a landlord could get $1,056 for that 0-bedroom is if he supplied all utilities, and if we did a rent reasonableness survey to determine that that was reasonable based on what other properties were renting in the area for. Just some examples of what we're renting. This is Sage Meadows Apartments out behind the hospital. We have 46 families that live in that complex. I think there's close to 100 units there. And those are very nice. That has been, it's a tax credit property, and that has been a lifesaver for our program. The scary part is those tax credits are set to expire in 2035. And when they expire, those owners can raise those rents. Part of the agreement with those tax credits is that they have to keep those at a modest rent level for a period, a compliance period. And then when those expire, then they can raise them to market rent. So if they were to raise those considerably higher when those tax credits expire, then we might see a lot of our tenants having to move and find other properties to rent. That happened in Knoxville a few years ago. They had a lot of Section 8 families that were put out and they started renting them to UT students. So we're just hoping that doesn't happen, or that we have more properties by that time. This is just a little house that we had on the program at one time, a mobile home, double wide out on 126 that we rented for a while. So the families have a broad range of what they can rent with those vouchers. So the home ownership program, we talked about that a little bit. Families are qualified either through being working families, and you can see there that we can assist those for 15 years and they have a minimum work requirement. And they have to stay employed, but they can have small breaks if needed for job changes and things. And then the elderly and disabled, some of these loans that we're seeing for those families are 33, 38 years, and we can assist them for the full period of time for that loan. This is our website, www.bristol-housing.com. That's where families normally will submit an application for housing and they'll be added to a waiting list. But currently our waiting lists are closed because they're so long. If somebody will accept an efficiency apartment at Edgemont Towers or Fort Shelby, which is a 0-bedroom, then they can apply in person here with us and probably get housing in 3 to 4 months. Other than that, the waiting lists are very long. You can see these numbers here: 0-bedroom 62, 1-bedroom applicants, 571 of those on the list. Total of 1,261 applicants just for public housing. The Section 8 waiting list, we opened it in January and had to close it within 2 days because we got over 200 applications. So that one we have worked through those, and we will probably reopen it in June. So if you know families have contacts, people that need housing, then have them to watch that our website, and we'll announce it on there what day we'll be opening it. Another thing that we do is we contract with other housing authorities to supply assistance to them, just other business ventures. So we started an agreement with Abingdon Housing Authority probably 15 years ago. They're so tiny up there and only have 3 staff. They couldn't afford accounting software and software to manage their tenant properties, and couldn't afford to staff an accountant. So we contract with them to do all of that accounting work for them, and for them to log in remotely and use our software. Oak Ridge Housing Authority, we've contracted with them to some of the same services. Since we have a lot of seasoned employees here with a lot of knowledge, we constantly are helping Abingdon, Oak Ridge, and other housing authorities with help with questions about the HUD programs. And at one time we were doing, for several years, we did property inspections for Kingsport and Bristol, Virginia housing. So that's just other ways for the Housing Authority to increase revenues. One of the newest things that we did was last spring, we bought a triplex over on Bay Street with the reason being to try to increase affordable housing. So we took monies that were non-HUD funds and that were set aside for other business activities, and we put about $400,000 into this purchase in this triplex, and set the rents below what the market rates are so that they could be affordable for the Section 8 families and payable under the vouchers. And so we have 2 families that are leased there on the Section 8 program. And so we're able to keep all the money in-house. The money comes into the Section 8 program. The Section 8 program pays the other account that owns this property. And then as we build up more reserves there, we can buy more properties. So that's what we're always on the lookout for, is more properties. But this is just a picture. This was Bay Street when we bought it. We've done some work there since, taken down some trees and done some different things. But on the left side of this, with this big deck, is a 2-story townhouse, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. And one of our Section 8 families came out of a trailer that was getting in pretty bad shape. and moved in there and loves it.
Actually weird, they all.
On the right side, we have a veteran, elderly veteran who lives in that unit, 3 bedrooms, 1 bath. And on the bottom, we have just moved in another Section 8 family. It's a 1 bedroom, 1 bath. And the picture on the right is from the alleyway. Some of those apartments, they enter from the alley and some they enter off of Bay Street. This was inside that 2-story townhouse, the 3 bedroom, 2 bath. It's a beautiful unit. Bedroom on the left here, living room on the right. This is the second unit where the elderly veteran lives. We remodeled this kitchen once we got it. That one hadn't been updated. And then that's a picture of his bedroom with a balcony looking off toward Bay Street. This is the unit in the basement that the 1 bedroom Section 8 voucher holder lives in. That was completed. We just had to do some flooring and a few other upgrades there. The other thing that we work on constantly is redevelopment. Work with the city of Bristol to a redevelopment district was designated years ago, and then that's periodically changed to find properties in the city that are blighted and need upgrading, need to be remodeled, I guess. And developers will apply for this program to get a tax increment financing loan. This works, the way it works is that they, part of the property taxes that they pay for that is paid by the city and the county during that period of development and for a period of time. And then after that, they're paying higher taxes to the city for these improved properties. These are some of the properties that we have done through that program. The old Walmart on State Street, I think, was one of the first ones. Then Lowe's on the Parkway was developed. The Lavender Lane condos here on Bluff City Highway. The E.W. King building downtown on Shelby Street, that's so pretty. That was done with the TIF. The hotel on State Street that fell in, that was a TIF too. Of course, that expired and is not going to take place anymore. And then the new development out at the racetrack across from BMS, Hudson Terrace, that one's in progress right now. So here's just some of those successes. Margaret said she'd like to hear some successes and struggles. So just to brag a little bit, the Housing Authority has been designated by HUD over the last 20 years, for most of those years, as a high-performing housing authority. Housing authorities are either high-performing, satisfactory, substandard, or troubled, I believe. And for all of your combined areas that they're looking at, finance, fiscal condition, reserve balances, property management, if you score a 90 or higher, then you're a high performer and you get additional capital fund monies in your budget. So that's all, we're always looking to do that to maximize that capital fund money. The new inspection protocol that HUD has come out with, that we've been in a transition period over the past year or two. We just had our first inspection from HUD for that, and we scored an 88. That's the highest in Tennessee, meaning our properties are, doing very well. Most of the scores the inspectors were telling us where they were seeing was in the 40s to 60s. So I'm very excited. We have very low staff turnover here. Many of our people have been here for 25 years or more. We've got some maintenance staff that have been here 30 to 35 years or more. And I think our newest office staff person has been here for 4 years. So people come, they stay, they learn a wealth of program knowledge. They like it here. If they're doing a good job, we keep them. So they know these HUD programs and they know tenant landlord law. So when we have audits, HUD reviews, we very seldom have any findings. We've had no findings in our audits, our independent audit, for the last 20 years. Our resident advisory board that HUD requires that we put together every year and bring in 15 to 20 residents, get their comments, get their input on putting together our annual plan. We just had that. We had some very good compliments from them about our staff, our programs, our properties. Of course, they're wanting heat pumps to be put into the units. And, we've been working on that. It's just those capital funds are so low that we don't have the money always. But we get good comments from them. They seem very happy. The Section 8 program, we have the highest utilization rate of our Section 8 vouchers in the state of Tennessee. And our HUD office, called me a few months ago and he's like, how are you doing this? Nobody else in Tennessee has these high rates. And so basically it came down to, we manage the program very closely. We've put in preferences for families who are in housing already, so that when we give them that voucher for 4 months to search for housing, it's not going to waste. We're able to house those families first that are already in properties and will stay there. But proud of that. Landlords that we work with are very positive. We see new landlords coming in, buying additional properties. A lot of landlords from out of state buying properties. They like to work with our staff. Have a great HCV specialist staff member now that is doing a wonderful job. Has a good rapport with the people and the landlords. We have healthy reserves, savings that in the public housing program and Section 8 program, to weather any of those low funding years when HUD doesn't give us our full funding that we're due. And we currently have no debt. So that's always good. But, we can always improve, and we're always looking to do that. So these units are getting older. Like I said, the family unit scattered sites were built in the 60s. We're having problems with sewer lines there. Those terracotta lines out there in the ground, and concrete lines, I think it is too, tree roots growing through. So we're having to put new sections of those in every few months. So, and that comes out of our operating cost.
Just if you can finish up in just a couple minutes.
Gotcha. Just about done. Heat pumps in the family units, that's what we're wanting to get done. Those capital funds are slow to, are not large amounts, like I said. And these high rises are so very hard for us to manage and maintain. They just are very expensive, more so than had anticipated, I think, than they would be. We talked about those low-income housing tax credit units. Capital fund financing is one thing that we're looking at right now to see if this would be advantageous for us to borrow against our future capital funds. Maybe we could do that and then put in new heat pumps in the family units. We're looking at RAD conversions, where HUD releases those deeds of trust to housing authorities and lets them bring in private financing to upgrade properties, build new properties, different ways of getting more housing or better housing. And then we're starting to work with the Branch House, who provide services to victims of domestic violence and sexual assault, to maybe provide some transitional housing units for those victims. And then there's always challenges from HUD. These new HOTMA regulations, it's Housing Opportunities Through Modernization Act, making sweeping changes to asset limits, rent calculations, and the inspections, the Inspire inspection protocol. That's going to be a little more difficult because landlords are not going to like that. There's a lot more involved in it. We're afraid we'll lose landlords. And then HUD still doesn't have their software ready for this Inspire program or for HOTMA. So HUD will put a mandate out and then give you dates that you have to be in compliance, and then they're not even in compliance themselves. So that's always a problem. But that is pretty much my presentation. And the last thing is that our director is retiring next spring. So that will bring on some new changes, I'm sure, as we have new leadership. But thank you very much. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Okay, thank you, Regina. And I didn't ask you and Lynn, but if we can share PowerPoints, we can send those out to follow up as well. And if y'all want to go ahead and put any comments or whatever in the chat while we're moving to Lynn to introduce herself and to introduce the folks who are here from your housing authority, housing development. I see Lisa Porter. I'm not going to say it right. They keep names keep changing. Lisa Porter was here, and I don't know if yes, I still see her, and Rachel. Anyway, if you want to introduce your folks, Lynn, and get started, and we'll keep moving. And be sure, anybody who's joined, put your contact information in the chat, and I will get that sent out.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Margaret. Thanks. Regina, you did a great job. I appreciate you very much. We We enjoy a great relationship with Bristol Tennessee Housing. We appreciate them very much and we partner together as many times as we can, as much as possible. So we appreciate them. They're great, great partners for us. Lisa Porter is our executive director. She was on here. I don't know if she's still here or not, but she was here.
Yes.
Rachel Nichols is our elderly disabled coordinator. Her office is here in the Envision Center. She's with us. I have another staff member that's out today, so I don't think she is here. And I think that's all of our staff that's here. I did not do a PowerPoint because I was also going to shamelessly plug the Bristol Coalition. Margaret mentioned that earlier. Is a meeting, monthly meeting, second Tuesday of every month that's been going on forever and a day I'm in. And we usually try to do a housing update early in the year, and we have not done one yet. So it's on the books already for our May meeting, which will be the 14th, as Margaret mentioned. So Lisa Porter is going to be presenting the program for that meeting. It's at noon here at the Envision Center. Love to have all of you to come and share with that. So that's where you'll get more information in the PowerPoint. So I did not do that.
And it'll be available virtually as well, correct?
It'll be what? I'm sorry.
People can join.
Sure. Yeah. I send it out. I'll send out a link as well. So if you can't come in person, but I once again echo what Margaret has said. The beauty of the meeting in person is what goes on after the meeting, when you get a chance to talk to people and you hobnob and you collaborate, and it's incredible. So that's the beauty of meeting together in person, and we certainly welcome all of you to come. So just kind of moving on and saying, we do public housing and vouchers just like Tennessee Housing does, and the criteria for those are the same. I will say that HUD has been kind of encouraging housing authorities for quite a while now to get out of the public housing business and look at funding of themselves a little bit differently. And because they own an aging stockpile of properties. For instance, we were established in 1938. Our housing authority, our buildings, Rice Terrace and Johnson Court, were built in the early 40s. So we're old, we're old, and maintaining those properties is costly and it just a lot. And not to mention, people would rather live in a newer, like Regina showed the picture of Sage Meadows. I think they're much rather live in something like that than the Army barracks style of housing that we have at Johnson Court and Rice Terrace. And so just maintaining and keeping attractive the family units that we have there, it's difficult. So we have looked at some of that too. We have Johnson Court, Rice Terrace, large family Mosby. We have the little Mosby, we call them, the Courtyard Mosby on Oakview Avenue, and some scattered site Mosby. We have large family Mosby. We have Sapling Grove, the Village at Oakview, Jones Manor, and Stant Hall. And Sapling Grove and the Village at Oakview are our newer tax credit properties. I think somewhere 2007 or 8, Sapling Grove was built. We have exhausted now. We own that. We've used up the tax credit time on that property, and it's now ours. So that's a really good thing. And we have quite a few vouchers that are in that development. For those of you who don't understand how tax credit properties work, they are awarded. You apply, lengthy application process. You apply for those. Businesses can, as a tax incentive or whatever, give tax credits. You apply, you receive some of them, and you use them for developing. They are managed usually by a large agency. For Virginia, it's Virginia Housing manages those, and there are criteria. I mean, it's a long, like, 1.5 to 2-year application process, a lot involved in getting those, but we've done 2 properties with those, and they set the rents, and then you have to earn, and there's like a ceiling for income. And so it's often very low income limits, and the rents are set so that if they don't have a voucher, it's very difficult to rent those properties. They're very nice. They're built with energy see everywhere. And they're, just really, really nice properties. Both of those developments have washers and dryers and dishwashers in each unit. Refrigerators, obviously, very, very nice. Our Sapling Grove are 1 and 2 bedroom units. And they were not designated elderly disabled, but the majority of the people living there are elderly or disabled. And quite a few, in fact, the majority of them have a voucher to live there. We have some of them that are public housing units, meaning that they operate just like our public housing does, with the fluctuating rent. A tax credit property has a set rent. Public housing is roughly, as Regina said, 30% of the median income, and those rents fluctuate based on the income of the household. The Village at Oakview is a family development. They are 2 and 3 bedroom units. There's 4 per building, 2 up and 2 down. And they operate the same with a fixed rent. The rest of our properties are public housing, except for we have some non-federal properties. We entered into an agreement many years ago with People Incorporated. We got a youth build grant with them, and the purpose of that grant was education and job skills training. So they were the participants between the ages of 18 and 24 worked on their GED for part of the day. They learned carpentry skills for the other part of the day. And they were going to renovate a house that we had purchased on Mary Street. Literally, the beginning of that program, it had, just like the week it started, someone torched the house and burned it to the ground. And so that was off the table. But we rebuilt the house. They actually worked and they built a house, and the contract with that program kind of ended. Our maintenance guys finished that house. So we rent that house on Mary Street and have a voucher family there. It's a 3-bedroom, bath and a half home there, and it's really a nice home. It has a detached garage there, and nice family with 2 children living there and doing very well. She's in school, about to become a nurse. It's just a great situation. And then several years ago, we bought a house from VI College before they left the planet. And at first they were housing students there. And then obviously students are gone. There are several apartments there, 5 maybe, or 6 apartments. And so we rent those. Efficiency up to 2 bedroom. There's 1 2-bedroom there. So we rent that. Those are non-federal. Just like Regina said, we don't have to count that money like our public housing, and we can do different things with that. So we are looking at doing quite a bit of development, understanding that housing is such a problem in our community. And so we demolished, when we built the Village at Oakview, we demolished our Bottom Circle development. And it was on 2 sites, 1 site there on Oakview, 1 site on Mary Street. We have yet to rebuild that, but it's happening. We will break ground by the end of the year on the property there on Mary Street. We will have 23 units there that we're really excited about. And so we did not get tax credits, but we did get the Virginia state credits, the hot seat credits. And so we're looking at a mixed finance package there with the hot seat credits and some other private financing and some grant money. And so we will be breaking ground there. We also wrote a grant and were awarded from the Home Consortium of Northeast Tennessee. Thank you, Christina, for $3.5 million. And we will be building 7 duplex units on Moore Street, the property that we own there on Moore Street, on the corner, kind of across from the backside of VI College. And so we will be breaking ground, hopefully also by the end of the year, to get that program started. Those will be duplex units. They will be 1 and 2 bedroom units. And these are designed by HUD. This money is ARPA money, so it's leftover COVID money. It was designed, and we had emergency housing vouchers during COVID. HUD came up with a program to help get some of the chronically unhoused folks housed. And so the emergency housing vouchers were designed to house those who were unhoused, under threat of being unhoused, and victims of domestic violence, those 3 categories. And we have and have used 15 of those emergency housing vouchers. This development, which we are going to call Morning Meadows, on Moore Street is designed to serve the same population of folks. And so we got money to do 6 buildings of duplexes there. They will be patterned just like the Sapling Grove duplexes there. So there'll be very nice units there. And we have pretty much secured the additional funding for another building, and we have enough room to do that on the site. So there'll be 7 duplex units there. So, it's not a lot, 23 units at Goodson Hills on Moore Street, another 14 there on Moore Street or Mary Street for Goodson Hills. Anyway, it's not a lot. It's a drop in the bucket for what we need, but it is a step in the right direction. And so we are happy. These will also permanent supportive housing vouchers that are out there. Highlands Community Services and People Inc. have those. And they are designed to serve those who are chronically homeless with a severe mental health diagnosis. Case management comes with those vouchers, and they will be eligible to be used in those developments as well. So that again fills a need, because both of those programs have said they've had very difficult times finding landlords and being able to place their people there. So especially Morning Meadows would be. Don't know how many of those are family units. And so there are more families on Mary Street in the product to come. So the Housing Authority itself, we received the designation of Envision Center back in 2019 during COVID. It was a Ben Carson initiative, but it has been phenomenal for us. We offered at that time quite a lot of resident services programming for our residents, understanding that if we don't have strong people, that there's not much of a business to be had. So we want to support our folks. We have operated Family Self-Sufficiency Program since 2006. And that's a program that HUD designed, which in my mind is the best thing HUD's ever done. I could be a little bit prejudiced there, but I think it's really good. And so people have an opportunity to get some supportive service, some help as they eliminate barriers to employment. So we help them to get jobs, to get training, education, whatever they need to get a job, keep a job, maintain that stability. When they have an increase in their rent due to earned income, a savings account kicks in for them, and the difference in their rent goes in that savings account every month. And so we have had, oh goodness, I can't remember now how many graduates. The very first of our graduates had over $21,000 in their escrow account, and she bought a home with that. Most of our people that graduate have done that, although we've had some that did not. We had one that stayed here. We had others that have done different things, education or whatever. They do have to have a plan for their money, however. We've had as little as like $3,500, as much as over $21,000 in escrow accounts. So we're proud of that program and happy. And I will say one of our members of our Board of Commissioners is a former FSS graduate who bought her home. She is a nurse in our community and doing very well. We ended up with an open spot. She was our resident commissioner for a while when she lived here. Then when we had a person move off due to retirement, she moved in as one of the community reps on our board, and continues to be a real advocate and a real bright spot in that role. So we're happy to have her there. We also have the Ross program, which is very similar to FSS, but does not have the escrow component. We have an elderly services program, which is what Rachel does. And that is designed to help people age in spot as long as possible. So she does an assessment with the folks on her program every year to kind of monitor how they're doing, make sure that they're stable, independent as long as they can be. If they need support, we try to make connections in the community for help for them, or help to ease them into transition if they need assisted living or something beyond what we can offer. So that's kind of what we are. We are also a move to work agency. Let me just throw that in there very quickly. We were awarded that as well. That allows us to make some changes to the way HUD's always done business. The rules that we've always done it that way, well, we can change those up and we can do it differently. About 20 years ago, HUD gave 36, I think, housing authorities the move to work status, and they started monitoring the waivers that they implemented and the changes that they made. And the idea was that could then be passed on to other housing authorities. A few years ago, they opened it up again, and now there are 100 move to work agencies in the country. We are one of those. And so we have implemented some changes, like triennial research. Instead of looking at income every year For people, we're looking at it every 3 years. So when an elderly person gets a very small COLA for their Social Security, it's not all absorbed in rent. They can keep that for a little bit. And so that benefits them. It eases the administrative burden on our staff so that they're not doing all of that sort of all the time. And they can have a little bit of a break. Not that sometimes things don't come up that we still have to do interims or something, but it does ease the burden for our administrative staff quite a bit. For our elderly or with medical expenses, instead of keeping up with all the receipts, we can give them a medical exclusion off the bat. Same with childcare. We can give an exclusion for families based on the number of children that they have instead of having to keep up with all those receipts and kind of going through all of that. So that makes things better for them. We want very much, and when we've looked at some of the waivers to implement, you know, when people start working and they're doing things and then they get to a point and then the benefits cliff hits, right? And they end up being worse off than they were before. We have tried to implement some changes and waivers that will ease that benefit cliff for our folks. And I think we're doing some of that. We do a supplement every year. We look at data that tracks kind of the impact that the waivers have had on our folks and on our staff, and we can make some changes and tweak that. Looking at others, we're about to implement some ways that the FSS program can benefit the escrow accounts so that when they meet goals they have to set goals in the program, but when they meet those or when they are meeting little things that lead to the completion of their goals, we can incentivize that. If they enroll in an education program, we can give them some money in their program for that. If they complete every semester that they complete, we can do that. If they bump their credit score up, right? So we want them to do that. So if they establish a savings account, many of our folks don't have savings accounts, and that's important. So if they open a savings account, we can incentivize that. If for every $200 they save, we can give them some in their escrow account. Things like that make a difference long-term, because that will impact their credit scores and they'll be more in line to buy a home if that's what they choose to do. So we kind of try to look at the whole family and look at that. We've got loads of other things. Oh my goodness. I was just looking at my notes. I think I've about covered or hit the highlights of everything, but we really try to look at the family, and we do a lot of programming here at the Envision Center. Partners come in and offer their programs. We do GED classes on site. They have ESL, they have career readiness certificate that's offered here. We have Big Brothers Big Sisters. Tammy Alls, I think, is on the call, and her office is here at the Envision Center. We love having Tammy around, and Big Brothers Big Sisters is an awesome program. We're so thankful to partner with them. They're here. Ballad Health has a peer recovery specialist that's here with us on site. We have mental health support. We have a counselor that's here on Tuesdays, available free of charge to people, and we're able to book that. We have meeting rooms available for groups or people that need. We have 3 different sizes, from a conference room all the way up to our large meeting room that will seat about 55 or 60 folks. And so we try to be available for the community as well as programming. We do kids club activities for our kids, take them places and do all kinds of things. We do lots. Oh, and let me just add one more little thing. Our national organization, NARO, does a What Home Means to Me poster competition every year. And this year, one of our residents, a senior at Virginia High, won the national competition, and her picture is on the cover of the calendar. So that's a big deal. I mean, that's a really big deal. She had to do local, state, regional, the whole thing all the way up. And her sister is the September winner. She's in the calendar as well. So that's a really big deal, and I'm really proud of them on that. You'll get to see all of that when you come on the 14th. Thank you very much.
All right. Woo! So,
Okay.
my goodness, so much there is with housing and with public housing, and how important absolutely it is, and with where we are today, continues to be incredibly important. Also, I would note, I don't think either of y'all pointed out, but it's pretty interesting that and it's not just our housing, it's many other things. Not only are we different states, but they report regionally to different regions.
Oh,
So
yeah.
Bristol, Virginia reports to Philadelphia, Bristol, Tennessee reports to Knoxville and Atlanta. So it's Richmond, Philadelphia, I believe, and then Knoxville and Atlanta. So those sometimes have different priorities a little bit. There's all under HUD, but how some of that's interpreted or what they prioritize, there can be some differences in how it's administered, et cetera, that there can be differences. So that also makes it interesting for how we work together and how sometimes it looks different, even though it's under the same thing. So we are just about out of time if we stick with our Renee Crick asks, and important stuff like this would be great, how to get information about landlords partnering with the housing authorities. So Lynn, Regina, contact y'all. Is that?
They can email us. We're going to contact the right place. You can call the Envision Center or call our main office. But yeah, email me. That would be easy.
Absolutely. The self-sufficiency program, if y'all can be checking the chat too, so you can answer those in a minute. The landlords are greatly appreciated. That Family Promise too is always looking for landlords and works with the housing authorities as much as possible too. And in our community, we're seeing a lot of the local landlords who, particularly some who've done it for years, who went through the eviction moratorium and a lot of difficulties with that for landlords. And some of them are giving it up and selling to larger corporations, might be national corporations, who come in and make improvements, raise the rent, and some of that's no longer available, or they are having people move out so they can do improvements, and so people don't have housing for at least a period of time. So that's one of the reasons for the shortages across our country, is that changing market, and a lot has to do with the raising of housing costs in general. If somebody can get more money as a landlord, they may need to do that because of the cost of keeping older properties improved. Or that they just are very tired of being in the landlord business, which is not an easy business to be in. So, so yes, landlords would love to have more landlords, and a lot of those landlords are special, that they do have a heart as well as looking to do it with, and it probably was said with HUD, with our housing programs, they talked about inspections, but they have to pass a basic inspection. Some of that does not mean that it's going to look like the units that Regina showed. Not always, not a lot of it, not close to that quality, but it does have to be livable, habitable, and some landlords are not ready to invest to be able to do that. So, and I think Christy Davenport asked, can the programs help Bristol, Tennessee residents with job skills and resumes and things like that?
Yes.
I don't know that. So you're saying yes, Regina?
The Envision Center can serve Bristol, Virginia and Tennessee residents, not just people in public housing or vouchers. And we would love to help anyone. We have, we do a lot of resume help and support and job search, and would love to help.
Also, our library, the Jones Center, helps with that as well. So, and I know at Family Promise, we've had TJ from the Jones Center come on site to be helpful and let people know that that service is available at our library. So, and actually, Regina, Lynn, we ought to do some more working together with the library, really identify what each does and how they work together to make the most of those resources that are available.
Let me just plug this. We had to have a partnering agency for our homeownership program, someone who was skilled and had certifications in doing homeownership counseling, things like that. So we partnered with Eastern 8 Community Development Corporation several years ago. And so we work closely with them to put these loan packages together, and they're very, very helpful and very good to work with. Sherry Trent's the director over there.
Thank you.
And I will plug People Link too, because we refer a lot of people to People Link, their home ownership program, and they've been great. Virginia Housing has provided a lot. Most of our folks who have purchased their homes have done so through, because if they do the home ownership program, it puts them in line for a lower interest loan. And sometimes if they have some down payment assistance money, they get that too. So Virginia Housing has been amazing. And People Link, Jamie Gross is really great in the home ownership program there.
I will just tell you guys, I came up Lee Highway yesterday and the Red Roof Inn that has been renovated, it's
I've seen
open.
that. Mhm.
They are studio apartments, 1 bedroom, 1 bath, but for $895, that includes utilities.
Yeah, I think American something realtors or
American Realty. It's Mia Johnson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that project has been in the works for quite a while. They started it and then they sold it and then they started and then they, I mean, it's sold twice during renovation, but that's good to see it's open.
Yeah, it's open. So, and don't forget drug take back this weekend. Clean out your medicine cabinets, please.
Linda, that property, the Red Roof Inn property there, is that on a bus route? Do you know?
It's
on a
right
county
on
route. It's on a county route.
It's right on Lee Highway.
Well,
what is that? Between 10 and 13, Lynn?
Yeah. No.
Exit 10 and 13.
It's after.
I think it's between
7 and 10.
Between 10 and 7, I think. And I'm not so sure that the county bus goes there anymore, because when they built the Walmart at exit 19, they stopped going to Walmart with the count on at exit 7 from the county. So I'm not so sure now that I say that it is on a county route anymore. And of course the city wouldn't go there because it's in the county.
Yeah.
So I don't know, Regina, I don't think it's on a bus route anymore.
That always makes it more difficult for people.
I know it's hard. Yeah.
Mhm.
But if, I mean, those hotels there were tons of people that were living there. If they could just transition into that would be amazing. You know, if that much could happen. So
Right.
yeah, it's great.
Other critical announcements, and if anybody also, if anybody has flyers or whatever, want to email them to me, I can send them out when I send out the chat, etc. I can also Gary McGow is our go-to with Bristol organizations for putting stuff out. I will try to be sure that I include his email address when I send stuff out. But all you have to do is send it to him ready to go, and he will send it out. And he has a list of 1,000, couple thousand, something like that. Anybody else have any other critical announcements? If not, and I hate for us not to share across, but we will try to do that at our next meeting. We will have, hoping it's been confirmed, but I can't tell you her name. So Pete Stivers, who's a member of our Bristol community, works for Kentucky, Frontier Housing in Kentucky. So it's not Frontier Health, it's Frontier Housing. And he had an AmeriCorps worker who did a research project on some of the housing issues. She will probably be with us and she's now been hired as a staff person with their organization. She'll give her research project. So that's what the plan is for May. So I'll be sending out more information and what that project includes and why it would be of interest to all of us. So that's what she presented at the Appalachian Studies Conference recently, and it's nice when their good information can be presented to different groups. So anybody else have anything critical to add? If not, we're going to stick with it's 12:06. I've told people that we occasionally go to after 12, but we're pretty good at keeping it to an hour. So we appreciate everybody. We appreciate there are a few people on here that they've only been once or twice, or somebody who's here for the first time. So we greatly appreciate it. We appreciate the chat. I see several people who are greatly appreciating their the presentations and learning more about our public housing. And Tony, are you wanting to say something or just waving?
We appreciate you so much. It's unreal. And I just put in it. What do you do with your spare time, Margaret?
Right, so I think these networking meetings are really important. So like we said, the Bristol Coalition has been meeting for decades. We do have Appalachian Promise Alliance does Youth Networking Alliance, which has focused on children, youth, and families. It includes the housing, but also is broader. Tammy, who was on here, has certainly been part of that. Lynn's been part of that. It's been meeting, started with monthly in 1999. But if you want to be part of Youth Networking Alliance and don't get that information, send me an email and we can add you to that list and to a newsletter list as well. So we overlap, and so that's a good thing when we can meet together and work together. And I think in our community, we've been doing that in many ways for a lot longer than many communities have. So anyway, with that, I will thank you for being here. Thanks, Karen George, for Family Promise, for doing the recording and being supportive in every way. And we will see y'all again in May at Bristol Coalitions and at right here back with Coordinated Community Response. So thank you very much. And I'm not going to end it immediately because I'm copying different things. So Karen, if you can end recording, we'll go from there.